Welcome back to That Crazy Adventure. Due to the massive outpouring of support from you guys when it comes to being a tester for this game, I decided to accept the offer. Which might make you think, Eclipse, if you accepted the tester position, then why are you making a video criticizing something instead of just sending it there? So for that, 2 reasons. Number 1, I need to put food on the table. And if everything is behind the scenes all the time and I don't have anything to talk about, then yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Number 2, I'd have to sit here writing out like a 7-paragraph essay of all of the things that I wanted to address, and it's just infinitely easier to talk about it in a format that I already know how to do and have done several times. So that's where we're at. As for the early game, it has improved tenfold since the last time I played it, but unfortunately, there are still some pretty glaring issues. So that's pretty much the purpose of today's video. Upon spawning in, you'll talk to Rohan, he'll tell you the mostly basic controls and then send you over to Koichi. When you talk to Koichi, he asks you to defeat some thugs, which is a pretty simple way of introducing the combat mechanics. Unfortunately, problems start to arise right here. Literally right at the start. And that problem is your health bar. Your health bar is the curse for the entirety of PvE in this game. As it stands, you only have 200 health when you first spawn in, and regardless of how good you are, you're going to take damage from the AI. They mash out attacks like no tomorrow. In order to do damage, you're going to trade hits back and forth. In other words, you will take damage. And the only way to heal that damage back is to pose. Normally, wouldn't be too much of a problem. But it is a problem, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it doesn't tell you how to do it, which will lead new players to throw themselves at the wall over and over again, running around with barely any health and getting their ass kicked because half their health bar gets taken from one NPC, so when they go to fight the next one, they die. And number 2 is just how slow your healing actually is. And the healing takes forever. Now trust me, I get it. They didn't want posing to heal you too quickly because it would cause people to constantly pose after they get ragdolls and stuff like that in order to heal themselves back to full health, stalling out fights. I understand that. It's a PvP-centric system for sure, but the reality is that there's a fair bit of PvE in this game. Presumably there will be more PvE going forwards, and as it stands, it takes so long to heal that regardless of what point you are in the story, it is a consistent problem. It arguably just gets worse the further you get along as your health bar increases. The bosses get harder, you get more health, you lose more health, but the time it takes to heal back to full goes up. If it were me, I'd probably make it so that your healing ramps up. In other words, when you first pose, your health regen is really slow, and it slowly increases how fast you heal as time goes on. That can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, making it not overpowered for PvP, while also making it so while you're grinding in PvE, or just generally out of combat and not fighting anyone, you can regenerate your health. Now fighting against the thugs isn't really that hard, it's just going to take some button mashing, eventually you'll get through it, and then we head back to Rohan. Once we've talked to him again, he asks us to go get a cup of coffee, and at that point, I'd like to ask, why? What is the purpose of this quest other than it being a legacy quest that's been around since, well, forever? Normally, the idea of the quest line, as far as I can see it, especially with the new things that they've added that we're gonna get to, is in order to teach you things. The idea of the storyline is to teach you all of the mechanics of the game so you understand how they work. Blocking, perfect blocking, that kind of stuff, which is why it's a problem that it doesn't teach you how to heal. But regardless, what is this teaching us? It's not teaching us about shops because we learn about that later when we get our coupon for free stuff and then we go to the actual shop. And it's not like the coffee does anything, it's there after the fact, but it's purposeless. So what is the point of the coffee quest? Maybe you could make the argument that the idea is to give you XP, so that way you can level up so things are easier down the line. But at that rate, why not just give you more XP on the other quests instead of having this pointless one where you have to walk to an area, press E, click through some text boxes, and then walk back? It's not fun, it doesn't teach you anything, I just don't get it. Anyways, finish up the coffee quest. you get a coupon for items, which will then lead you to the shop. This is something they've changed from the last time I played, and it is infinitely better. Not only does it lead you directly to where the shop is, so that way you understand where it is and how it works, but you also get several items which allows you to roll for stands right off the bat. After the shop, you go to Jojo, and problems come up once again. After talking to Jojo, he'll send you into a traversal puzzle. Frankly, I don't know why this traversal puzzle is here, and I can also foresee the traversal puzzle being a massive issue going forwards, and a roadblock that can lead to a lot of frustration. Number one, because as far as I could tell, the game does not teach you how to grab onto ledges, which means if you don't know how to grab onto ledges and you get to this part of the game, you're soft locked. You can't play anymore. But this is also a perfect place to segue into mobile. As many of you told me by now, the game does not have mobile support, or at the very least, if it does, it's not very good. A lot of people on Roblox play on mobile, so the game lacking mobile support is a serious blow. That being said, if there's one thing that your average mobile player is going to struggle with, it's hardcore parkour. Especially hardcore parkour with a system that they haven't been taught yet. Now I know, there are some mobile players out there that are fully capable of playing the game just like people on PC, but the majority are not. Let's be realistic here. And once again, having a roadblock this early on in the game that effectively locks you out of going forward if you can't get past it, and forces you to do a mindless grind if you're incapable of getting past it, yeah, not great. I don't know if the traversal puzzle was put in because they're planning on having a whole bunch of traversal puzzles going forwards, and so they want to teach you it here, but I think the even funnier part is the fact that there's no part in the entire rest of the game where you need to use the information that you would have learned here. Climbing up ledges is never required. You can jump over or climb ladders to get over just about every obstacle in the entire game. So ignoring the fact that it's really jarring to be put into effectively a dev room with like dev textured blocks that you need to jump around, it just feels pointless, and if it's gonna be there, it sure as hell needs a better explanation. But it shouldn't be here. Future Eclipse speaking, right after I recorded all the VO for this, I was genuinely and morbidly curious exactly how this was playing out in-game. So I went on an alt account, I jumped in, and I waited around in the traversal challenge, and exactly what I expected and exactly what I just described is already happening. This room needs to go ASAP. Not only just this room, but also the next step of the challenge, which I'm re-recording my entire section for after seeing other people attempt it. The room is too hard for new players. That's just what it is. I know, I'm sure the developers and the people who tested this are veteran players of video games, so they don't have a problem. But not everybody is that. Just look at these people. They look lost. They don't know what they're doing. They can't get up here. Do you have any idea how frustrating this probably is for these guys? And it gets worse. Oh God, does it get worse. When you get to the top, it's supposed to teach you about blocking, block breaking, and parrying. But it doesn't do that. What it does is massacre new players. It doesn't teach them shit. Not only that, but it's also bugged, which we'll get to in a second. First, the blocking enemy. It's supposed to teach you to use block breaking moves in order to block break the enemy. The problem is that the enemy still beats the shit out of you. Not only do they beat the shit out of you, but they beat the shit out of you with a stand where they use their entire moveset. So you don't have time to focus on block breaking the opponent when you're just trying to survive. Look at this guy. He's barely getting through. Is this supposed to be a tutorial to teach you things or a massacre? There is zero reason why the blocking enemy should use any moves other than maybe default punches and a lot of blocking. That's all it should do. No projectiles, no unblockable, unparryable attacks, just blocking and attacks. It's supposed to be teaching you, not killing you. Now it seems like the game is supposed to kick you out of the arena if you're about to die. That's what happened to this guy a few times. But sometimes it doesn't do that and just outright kills you. And if the NPC kills you, then guess where you're at? At the bottom of the traversal challenge again. Imagine that you struggled like hell with the traversal challenge, you finally got up here, you went to go fight the enemy and it was like, we're gonna teach you about blocking enemies. Then the game killed you and sent you back to the bottom of the traversal challenge again. Would you keep playing? Probably not. Now, after you defeat the blocking enemy, it's bugged. It's supposed to send you back out of the arena, but it doesn't do that. Religiously, every single time that I was playing this, after I killed the first blocking guy, it wouldn't kick me out of the arena, and I'd be stuck in there, soft-locked until I reset, and guess what? You need to do the traversal challenge again. And the next guy is supposed to teach you about perfect blocking attacks. And here we go again. The same problem as last time. The NPC that's supposed to teach you about perfect blocks, number one, should not use any moves other than moves that can be perfect blocked. Otherwise, what is it supposed to be teaching you? And number two, why the fuck does this NPC throw out so many attacks? It is overwhelming as shit. Just look at it. Look how many attacks it throws out. If you're a new player, how are you supposed to get a grasp on what the hell is going on when you keep getting ragdolled and block broken over and over and over again? That's insane. Again, were these supposed to be tutorials or roadblocks in order to get people to quit out of the game? I'm making a big deal out of this because there is no way that the game isn't bleeding players because of this. There's just no way. Like, it has to be. This stuff needs to be fixed ASAP. And because of that, I'm gonna be pushing this video's release date way earlier than planned. It'll probably come out immediately the day after I release it, because this is really bad. That's the end of Future Eclipse. Moving forward. After this point, there's really not a whole lot for me to say because I feel like the rest of it is well done, so there really isn't anything to say. You talk to Jojo again, he tells you to go talk to the informant, you talk to the informant, and instead of the informant telling you that you need a bunch of money, instead, he sends you towards a quest giver. And that quest giver is one of the quest givers for the repeatable quests. So it teaches you about repeatable quests. Then after you do that, go back to the informant tells you about Hayato, you talk to Hayato, then he tells you to go talk to Josuke, fight Kira, and that's where the storyline concludes. Well, sort of. It's not where the early game and new player experience concludes, but it is where the storyline concludes. Now, whether or not they plan on continuing the storyline and what they plan to do with it, I frankly don't know. But that's not important right now. What is important is the fact that you're level 23. And that is fucked up. Why is that fucked up? Well, that's because between level 0 and level 25, there is one quest giver. The quest giver that you met earlier. Now, I know this, but other people may rightfully assume that this isn't the case, which could potentially lead them to wandering around looking for an NPC quest giver that doesn't exist. Right now, there are no extra map markers telling you where to go. So the only thing you can assume to do is either wander around or get lucky and go back to the quest giver that you met earlier, do his quest about 3 or 4 times, which will get you to level 25, and now a map marker pops up telling you where the level 25 plus quest is. Now, pray tell, why couldn't you just get to level 25 at the end of the storyline so it immediately tells you where you need to go? The answer? I don't have a clue. I really couldn't tell you. I guess they just didn't think of that. Anyways, grind after that's very reasonable. More reasonable than probably any game on the platform. Maybe arguably too reasonable if you ask some, but I'm happy with it. Took me about an hour and a half to get to level 100, which is an hour and a half to put yourself at a position where fighting against other players is fair and you can access all the content that the game has to offer. It would probably take a little bit less than that if you didn't have to wait to heal and just stand there and do nothing after every single boss, but it is what it is. Overall, the new player experience has improved tenfold. That being said, it does feel like a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of scenario. I don't have a clue what they were thinking when it came to that whole traversal area, and I mean, I'm not a new player. I'm just talking on behalf of people that I've never met. I can see these things happening. I was a trash can once. I know, I was a 9-year-old trash can on Roblox, and I can tell you with certainty, if I got to that point as a 9-year-old trash can on Roblox and I didn't know how to grab ledges, that would have been it. I would have just quit the game. Like, I'm not getting anywhere. But whatever, I've said my piece. Hopefully these things will get ironed out. I feel like they probably will. Or we'll get a pretty solid explanation, because it seems like so far the developers are pretty on top of addressing issues. But that's all for me today. So if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.